Hi, my name is Vesna Petrova, and we're here today at the Canadian Macedonian Historical Society on Friday, September the 4th, 2015, to interview Mr. Alex Alexander for the Canadian Macedonian Historical Society. Welcome, Mr. Alex Alexander, and thank you for sharing your story for the archives of the Canadian Macedonian Historical Society. Let's begin by first telling us when and where you were born.
I was born on July the 14th, 1937, or as I tell everybody when they ask me when were you born, I will usually say July 14th. And go ahead, and I would say, oh, I forgot to say, last century. And they start laughing. What part of last century? So you get a little conversation going, eh?
Yeah.
So I said 1937. Wouldn't you call that last century?
And tell us where you were born.
I was born in Sveta, Petka, Lerinsko. Tocmu Polpat meju Lerin, meju Bitola. Nije do granicata sne muživu, jedan majal, and preden je zatvori granicata Tito, imavne vekot Nivje na drugata strana.
So your village is actually right on, close to the border. That's now the border between Macedonia and Greece, right? And
Correct.
only a kilometer
Correct.
from Macedonia. And
Yeah, the greatest thing that can happen, which is a lot of people working on it, is that to break that and make Macedonia as a whole and make Solun the capital. That would be something to see in our lifetime.
Right. Talking about lifetime, how about your parents? Who were they? Tell us first, and where they were born.
They were both born in Sveta Petka. My mother, unfortunately, during the war, had the mishap of being. They were работая на лозята.
They were working on the
vineyards. And north of the vineyards were the partisans, and just below the vineyards was the highway to the border, and there was a military station there. And the partisans started shooting, and the army started shooting back, and everybody scattered. And unfortunately, my mother left her jacket. She went back to get the jacket, and that's when they got her. A bullet here through the heart. And when my grandfather on my mother's side heard about it, he ran up, and she died in his arms.
It's very sad. And what year was that, Alex?
This was 1948.
1948, right at the beginning of the...
Yeah, and unfortunately, because of her, that's how I ended up coming to Canada. And my father would have never taken me otherwise, but I have an aunt here, Servini Savica,
Yes.
and John, and
Yeah, we'll talk about those details just in a little while. Can you first give us your mom's first and last name and your father's as well?
Okay, my mother's last name was Velianu, Velinou, and so was my father. But the reason my name is Alexander, when my mother passed away, my father was by himself, so he got a common law wife because she was Catholic and couldn't marry her, and they had a child. And I made a promise between me and my wife, if my father is decent, we're going to change our name from Greek to his first name, which was Christopher. And unfortunately, he, when he passed away, he left everything to his illegitimate son, and that's when my children, our children, my wife's and I's children, all three of them, decided that they would like to have my first name as their last name in the beginning of their family life.
Right. And in terms of you being in Sveta Petka as a child, do you have yourself siblings?
Yes, I have a sister and a brother. They're both passed away now.
Their names?
Yeah, Michael is my brother, and my sister is Fanka. She was in Australia and she passed away there.
And they were both born in Sveta Petka?
Oh yes.
And how about your grandparents and your other extended family? Do you know the names of your grandparents?
I know the names, but my paternal grandfather, he died before I was born. But his name was Pavle.
Okay.
Okay, and then my mother was from the same village with Servinovci, po-grčki Servinis.
Okay, and you mentioned that all of your family, parents and brothers and sisters, you were born in Sveta Petka. What language did you speak when you were in your
We were
village?
born with Macedonian language, and we spoke Macedonian. When the Turks left and the Greeks came back, they made us speak Greek, and they would actually punish you. And there's a good joke about that.
What kind of punishment? Yeah.
Fines, jail, take you up on the military post for a few days, and they put you on the work detail. Yeah.
And you were about 12 years old when you came here, right?
I was exactly 12 years
12
old.
years old. What can you remember of your life in the village, Alex?
Plenty.
Plenty.
As if I came yesterday.
And
Yeah.
how big was your village?
There was a cute kind of joke behind that. It wasn't a joke, it actually happened. The Greeks, if they heard you speak Macedonian, they would punish you. And the military post stopped him, and he says to the Magare,
The donkey?
yeah, chuch, stop. And той Гърко му вели, ти ипес, шо рече, чуч, шо е това вели, по-гръчки. Вели, по-български се вели застани. Знаеш български ти, му вели той, по-гръчки баба. Не вели, ама знам, чуч вели. Because, знаеш, това от България го купиме, не разбира гръчки.
Oh, Magareto.
Yeah.
You bought him from there.
Yeah.
That's why he
And
doesn't
you should
understand
see
Greek.
the soldier laugh.
Yes.
He killed himself laughing.
Was this your father or somebody who told the joke?
No, it happened to me.
Oh, it really happened when you
Yeah.
were there
Yeah,
as
it's
a
not-
child.
It's not a joke, yeah.
Okay. And about how big was your village, Alex, as you remember?
Yes, we had up and down around 110 houses, and up and down from 800 to 1,100 people.
And who were your friends when you were in the village? You were just a young child.
Oh, all my neighbors were my friends, and a lot in the village, and all my cousins were my friends, and so I had lots of friends.
And do you remember what games you played?
We used to play kotka.
Okay, can you tell us how you played kotka?
Kotka is hockey,
Okay.
okay? But nemavne kotka. Znaš što je izafne?
What did you use instead of a puck?
A stone.
Okay.
So you get some glue joy, got a little hurt. We didn't play right.
So you got hit with
Stones on
with a
the
stone
ice.
quite hard sometimes, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. And
Oh, speaking of getting hit, see the scar here?
yes.
Okay. When I was, before I came, It was 1947. I went past a horse, and I scared the horse, and the horse with a shoe on, kicked me right there. Lifted that up, and then they didn't take me to a doctor. My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, he was a very learned man.
With some homemade whiskey, yes.
Yeah, той клава райтия, јас кај цекај,
Yeah.
го
I
изчисти
get it hurt,
убаво.
yes.
Oh God, yeah. Го изчисти убаво.
He cleaned it up with whiskey,
He
yes.
cleaned it up, and he got wild mushrooms, and he covered it with wild mushrooms. И ми клаја крпа около главата.
And he tied it
And-
with a scarf,
And
yeah?
within about a week, took it off, and that's it.
That was a very good homemade
Remedy.
very
Yeah,
good,
and
yeah.
that's sweet.
Did he know about other homemade remedies, or that was...
Oh no, there were so many.
Yes?
I got a sunstroke once. They didn't teach you about sunstroke there. They were not very helpful. If they told me, I would have worn a hat. I was with the animals, and I was looking after them, and all day, sigori,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden they started getting dizzy. And took my coat off, I put it on, I grabbed the animals, took them home, and they called it after my grandfather, maternal grandfather. He says, he says, you got sunstroke. Что? Ми вели много време на слънцето. He got sunburn.
So he knew that you had sunstroke.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he cleaned it up with the whiskey again and wild mushrooms. And I was wearing that thing like a nurse for about a week, and took it off. Everything was okay.
Great, and now we know how important wild mushrooms are for being
Yes, of
important to
course.
our health.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
your grandfather sounds like
Yeah.
he knew that a long time ago.
Yes, yeah.
Great.
Now we're talking back in 1945, 46, because I was about 7, 8 years old.
Right, and did you go to school when you were in your village, Alex?
There's a Greek word for it, nipia.
Which means?
Nipia. Знаеш що се каже?
No.
You know what it means? Kindergarten. That's the only school I went,
So you
because it was wartime,
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us what you remember when you went, so you just went to kindergarten, and what language were you
They were
speaking?
teaching us Greek.
They were teaching you.
No Macedonian.
Mhm. And do you remember about anything about your classroom, or how?
Oh God, yeah.
Any pictures
They,
that you want
they,
to
they
share?
would, sorry?
You want to share any of your experiences? Yes.
Oh yeah. They used to keep them in one class, sometimes up to 60 people.
60
And,
students.
Yeah, and the teachers, I still remember his name. You're talking a long time ago. His name was Kuskusiri. You know what it means?
No.
Shorty.
Shorty?
Shorty, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And,
Was he a Macedonian person teaching you?
No,
or
he was Greek. He only spoke Greek. And then
Was he from your village, or was
No, he was brought in, and he lived with a family, and then the government paid that family for him.
Because was there anybody in the
my
village?
grandmother
Yes.
asked me, she wasn't feeling good, if I could collect some slavey. It was just
Plums.
outside of, the plums outside the village. So I went there, and I rolled up my sweater, and I filled it up with the slavey. So I saw they were collecting and getting ready to get in the school. So I went around, and they maybe not to see me, and I went through the window. But just as I got in, the class came in,
Uh-huh.
and the teacher says to me, "What do you got there?" And I says, "My grandmother's not well, and she asked me to do her a favor, and I collected some plums, And everybody started laughing. And so what he did, he came over, flipped my sweater, and all the slavey went in the classroom, and he says, I'm doing this not against Alec. He says, I compliment him that he would go to that extent for his grandmother. But for you, and he looked at the first girl and everybody else, you're going to get up, get on your knees and collect every one of them, put them back in his sweater.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And do you remember, so the teacher, was he able to speak Macedonian? Or?
No, he was Greek.
So he only spoke Greek too?
Yeah.
Do you know why he had to come over from another place in your village? Would there have been anybody who was able to be a teacher?
Well, they didn't want to, the Greeks were anti-Macedonian, okay? Or they wanted to control it, okay? And they didn't want it mixing. They wanted to be spoken Greek when you're in the class.
Right, so they didn't want a Macedonian person teaching you.
Exactly,
okay.
Yeah.
Now, do you remember any special celebrations in your village, Alex? Any social gatherings?
Actually, the biggest one every year, Sveta Koleda. Koleda, just before Christmas. You go from house to house and they give you something, an apple or some, whatever they
The children go
Yeah.
from house to house.
Yeah.
And you remember those times with your friends.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another custom they used to do. They would throw the cross in the river.
Yes.
And whoever was brave enough to jump in that cold water, pick up the cross, you know what he got? He got to go around. And that gave him the privilege to go to every house, just like the guy at Koleda.
Yes.
And they gave him something.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you went out for Kolede with your friends,
Yeah.
did you sing any special songs, or did you say anything to the people for them to give you anything?
No. We used to say, "Dojdome za Kolede," dobro dojdete, and then they'd give you something, because there was a lot of kids going.
Right.
So they didn't stop to talk too much.
Right. So you just asked for.
Yeah. Oh, it was a beautiful thing, you know. You look forward to it.
Great. And what, in terms of your village, Alex, this was, you mentioned it was during the war, when you were there, growing up. What memories do you have from the war?
Oh, plenty.
You mentioned a
just
sad one
remember,
with your mother, yes?
My mother got killed while they were working at the vineyards. The guerrillas were up in the hills, and the soldiers were going past on the highway, and they started shooting at everybody, at each other, and nobody got hurt except my mother got killed.
Right.
Thank God her father, my maternal grandfather, reached her in time. She died in his arms.
Alex, I know that those were difficult times when you were growing up in your village during the war years. Can you tell us some of your memories? I know they're hard memories.
Well, every night was a fright night, okay? We were scared that the guerrillas would come into the village. Would you believe, in one visit, the guerrillas took all our sheep from our house. We had a large house, it was 22 people. We had 150 heads of sheep. Now, for them to go back to the mountains, they'd have to go past the military post. Now you'll learn how important the post was. It was a waste of money because they didn't come out to challenge them.
No, eh?
No.
And so when you say guerrillas, you mean the...
Partisani.
Who were the Macedonians fighting at that time?
Yes, yes. But they were trying to fool us. They were, apparently, they were communists, okay? But they were telling the villagers that they were fighting for Macedonia.
That's right. That was a big...
big lie.
A big lie that we had, unfortunately, a lot of Macedonian people died. And
yeah, they fought with them, thinking they're fighting for Macedonia.
Yes.
And it's a shame.
And it was the Greek Communist Party, wasn't it, that
Exactly, yeah.
that they were
And would you
involved
believe
in.
it was brothers against brother fighting? Some they were pro-Greek, and the others were staunch Macedonians, and they would fight, and one even knows afterwards that he killed his own brother.
It's very sad. And as you said, these were Macedonians fighting for Macedonia, the way they were explaining to you, but they
were actually the Communist Party.
Like they were in the Greek
Because
Communist
don't forget,
Party.
the Greeks had a Communist Party.
Yes, and they lied to the Macedonians
Correct.
that the Macedonians would get
Yeah.
their rights after the war, right? So
Oh, I got to tell you this. Remember the Chuch? Did I tell you that?
with the donkey and
Yeah. Moreche Chuch.
yes,
Аз крилята типес, що рече, вели?
right, yeah,
Вели, му реко да застане по-гръчки, знаеш.
yeah.
Вели, знаеш, вели, трябва да те взема натре, че имаш пеналти, вели. И ти не можеш да го говориш по-македонски. О, аз не го говоря по-македонски, вели. Той го купим от България. Не разбирва македонски и не разбирва гръчки. Затова му реко Чуч, вели.
Okay, he tried to get,
Was that a smart comeback?
That was a
or what?
smart comeback, yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
he actually saved a good beating.
right. Now, Alex, yes, so talk a little bit more about your village as you were a child and growing up, and what were some of your other memories?
Well, we had one of the best villages, lucrative-wise, and the nicest people. Lucrative was wise. We were at the end of the hills, eh? So the water would run through the village, and then we would take water from that river and take it to the Nevia, you know.
Fields, yes.
The fields, yeah.
So you had fertile lands with good water?
Very rich, yeah.
What were some of the...
We had some of the biggest... Opsirci, they're just north of us. They would spend a fortune in collecting wood to exchange it for our lubaniti, the watermelons.
So you had wonderful watermelons.
We had watermelons
ones.
that you had a hard time picking up.
So the people were farmers and they grew... What other kind of fruits and vegetables?
Our man of the house, my uncle, he built a bafcha, which is a...
Garden?
No, we had a garden in the middle of the village, but this was an apple orchard.
Orchard, okay.
Yeah, orchard of all kinds, with a full orchard, yeah.
So you had an apple orchard, you had watermelons and all kinds of vegetables.
Peponi. I'm
melons
telling you,
as well?
melons this big again.
Cantaloupes, yes.
Yeah, because it was very fertile land.
Okay, and you were able to sell it, like you said, to the other villages?
To the other villages, and also Lerin, which is the closest commercial center, they would take them there, and my uncle was making good money.
So they would go to the market in Lerin and sell their fruits and vegetables?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and how about with before you came to Canada? When and why do you think you came to Canada, Alex?
Well, it was a misfortune. I'd rather stay in the old country and not take that misfortune after my mother got killed. I have an aunt here, and she kept bugging my father, and my father was very fond of her. And she says...
It's his sister? Your father's sister, your aunt, or your mother's sister?
No. She was my mother's first cousin from the mother's side. Okay? And she kept pushing him, and he wouldn't bring me here. And then one day she says to him, I don't want you to come to my house again. And my father got shocked. She says, Що говориш, вели? Вели, златно дете, вели. Тебе не те знае. Because my father came in 36, left in 37. I was born in 37.
So your father was already in Canada?
Yeah.
Okay, tell us
All
about
that
that
time-
then. He was
all-
like
all
a
that
picture
time.
bar.
Yeah. All that time I had no father.
So when did your father come to Canada?
He came, he was in America and then came back, and then came to Canada. This is back in, when I was born, then he left again.
So he was already here before and he...
Came back, and then it was my good fortune, and my mother, she saw a child. Oh, by the way, unfortunately, with every good fortune, look around, you might find some negative. I was a twin, and my sister died just after birth.
Just after birth.
Yeah.
So when you were growing up in the village, your father wasn't there all that time. He was in Canada.
Exactly.
And whereabouts in Canada was he?
Toronto.
He was in Toronto.
Yeah, he was in Windsor for a while. He was in the States, he was in Detroit.
And then he came to Toronto.
Yes.
So he was already here and you were growing up without him there.
Yes.
Okay, so then your aunt told your father that she's going to ask for you to come here?
She pushed
Uh-huh.
very hard. She says, ako ne odojesiš, ne te sakam u kućata. And my father was very fond of her. And
Do you know her name?
yeah, da se skineš od smeo po naše. We knew everybody by Janica, Ioanica, Pavlica.
The name of the husband became
Yeah.
the name of the wife.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
But тая вика Парскеви.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. И селото не вика Парскеvi по-гръцки.
Okay. So you mentioned that your father was gone in while you were growing up.
Yes.
Do you remember why he left the village to begin with? To come to Canada in the States?
He wanted in plain English, or he wanted to decorate it. He was a shetach. He didn't want to stay in the village,
Yes.
so he left. It was as simple as that.
So he wanted adventure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
It wasn't
he
because
promised-
of economic reasons?
No. It was. He did not like the village, and he promised his brother, who was the head of the house. He says, "I'll make it up to you." So once in a while, he'd send $100 or $200.
So he came to, and then did they get married with your mother before he was in the village, obviously, right?
When he came back in 36,
Yes,
remember I was born in 37.
right. That's when he got married to your
Yeah,
mom.
if he hadn't come back, I wouldn't be here.
All right. So he went back, and then with your aunt's blessings, he brought you here.
Yeah.
Did you come by yourself or with your other siblings?
Actually, it wasn't her blessing, her perseverance.
Perseverance.
She kept pushing him.
Uh-huh. And then did your father bring your other siblings as well?
Yes, my older brother.
What was your father doing in Toronto all the time that he was away from the village?
He was a very intelligent man. He became very wealthy. He started poor. He was a baker, and he had a little trick with his bakery. When he delivered the bread, he would deliver to different restaurants at lunchtime. So he'd deliver the bread, and they'd invite him to have dinner, lunch. Okay? And at the end, when he passed away, we had a place on the lake shore, if you're familiar with Etobicoke. It had 60-room motel right on the lake, and it was close to 4 acres of land. It was a 160-seat restaurant, and I was managing the motel, and he would but just cashier the restaurant, but do nothing else, because fully staffed. It was a big-size restaurant,
So
very popular.
Right. So you came to Canada with your siblings? Both, the three of you came together when you came to Canada?
No, actually, he brought me first.
Yes.
That's how my aunt kind of outsmarted him. Once he brought me, he says to him, this is grauta, and a shame that Alec is by himself. He's got no mother, and he hasn't seen you almost all his life. So why don't you bring his brother?
Right.
My brother Michael, and he brought him with family. He had one child, and then they had two more children.
When your brother came.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Alex, you said that your father had a bakery in Toronto and then a motel. Do you know the names of the bakery and the motel?
No, he worked for a bakery.
He worked for a bakery.
Yeah,
Okay.
Weston.
Weston.
But the motel, if you look it up on the internet, they still show historic things. Now it's apartments. If you see the high-rises that are there, oh man, because of the location. But otherwise, he sold it for $1 million for $500,000 for his share. Then 25 years later, I was a real estate broker for 48 years. I sold the place for $15 million. You know what my commission was? $450,000.
That's quite good for that period of time. That's excellent, even for now. So the name of the hotel was?
West Point.
West Point was the name of the hotel. Okay. And so you tell us a little bit about how you came to Canada. What about your trip? Did you come with a boat, a plane? How did you come?
No, because my father was doing well, he brought me in with a plane. I landed in Newfoundland. From Newfoundland, they put me on another plane. And would you believe this was September 22nd? And when I got off the stairs, I slid down off the stairs and nearly broke my head. It was that cold at that time in Newfoundland.
Frozen.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, so you came by yourself. That must have been quite a trip to come for a young boy by yourself.
I was very fortunate. There was a guy from
Another village?
Another village. I'm trying to. I know it. It just won't come to me right now. But I was lucky. He lived in Lerin, so my father arranged it so that I come with him, and we stayed in Solon because he was a wealthy man. Now he had a bakery in Lerin, which is big money.
Right.
Okay, and we stayed in Solon for about 3 weeks.
With him, and then you
And then
took the plane?
from there we took a plane to Athens, from Athens to Rome. In Rome we changed planes and came to Montreal, and my father came to pick me up in Montreal.
Great. And was someone waiting, so he was waiting for you at the airport in Montreal?
Yes.
Yes. And how was that reunion? Did you recognize your father, or?
He played a little trick on me, the rat. He told me that he was my uncle. When we get home, you'll meet your father. We got home, we went to Mike Jones's house. Mike Jones's house is almost the size of this building in Weston, and he's got 3 or 4 acres of land. He's a primary house in Weston, and remember he told me I was his uncle, and we sat down. So a Kako vървите с татката ми, вели? How do you and your father get along? And I looked around. He said, I said, you said my father? Oh, he says, this rat, you know, не ти казвате, that's your father? No, he told me he's my uncle. Не ти е странно, вели? Yeah, they were very good friends.
Yeah.
They got along beautifully. Станахме се загърбиме с избациме.
Then you hugged each other as father and son.
Oh God, yeah. And we got along beautifully.
And what was your life like those first years? Did you go to school in Canada? How did you learn the language?
I went to school with my cousin. I lived for a while at my aunt's place.
And where was that?
At Caledonia and Eglinton. And we used to go to the Harvey public school, and we walked to school. Rain, shine, whatever, you walked. And it was good because I had my cousin. Do you believe I spoke English in 1 year? You know, so I was very fortunate that way.
And what grade, do you remember what grade did you start?
Grade 4.
You started in grade 4.
You forgive me, but by then I was 12 years old. Eh?
Yes.
And you can't tell them that you went to just first year of public school, eh?
Right.
And they put me in grade 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
And learning the language wasn't a problem at the beginning?
Believe it or not, maybe I have a gift for it or something. I learned it within 1 year. I spoke as well as my cousin who was here 5-6 years earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who were your friends when you mentioned your cousin? What's his name? And who were your other friends in Canada?
You make a lot of friends from the school.
Right.
Once you started going to school.
Were there other Macedonian boys and girls?
No, none that I knew of, except for my cousin. Eh? And but I finished it pretty good.
And what was your cousin's name?
Pearl. They're here. They're in Toronto, and her older sister Tala, and they became, believe it or not, they became millionaires. They had a property at Highway 10 and crosses Highway 9, south of 9, and the property was such a location. One of the gas companies asked him if they could rent it, and he says, well, what kind of rent are you talking about? He says, well, if you give us a good lease, we'll give you a good rent. And they gave him a 10-year lease with a 5-year option. Would you believe they were paying $10,000 a month that time? It's $120,000 a year.
Yes, that is a very good rent. Now, what was your father doing during this time, Alex, as you were going to school and you learned the language quite quickly?
Oh, he opened a restaurant before I came. And then he bought a property on the lake shore, right on the lake. And he sold the other one and built a restaurant there. It was a coffee shop, okay?
Yeah.
But nicely done.
What was the name of it? Do you remember?
West Point, that's the same one.
Oh, the same one.
Don't forget that we had almost 4 acres of land on the lake.
So you had
You
the
could see the
hotel?
whole city.
Right.
No, that came later. First he started with the restaurant. He was doing so well. And then he built one row of motels this way. And then he was doing so well, he built another row of motels this way because they were overlooking the lake. It became very popular. And then he built another wing going that way.
So your father was a real entrepreneur.
Oh, very clever. Yeah.
And what were you doing during this time? Were you involved in his restaurant business?
Was I ever. I went to school, but he made me work Tuesdays, Thursdays, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
In the restaurant?
Yeah.
Yes, in the restaurant.
Yeah.
And you mentioned...
I'll tell you how much he worked me. When I lived with my aunt, he used to make me come from Caledonia and Eglinton all the way to the lakeshore, changing different streetcars, taking Eglinton to Vaughan Road to the Oakwood, and so on. I changed about 4 streetcars to go to work.
Mm-hmm. And who was your father's partner? You mentioned he had a lot of...
He had 2 partners,
yes.
One Serbian and one from Rako.
Do you know their names?
Steve and Tommy.
Uh-huh.
And they got into a disagreement, and they gave him an offer, and when he saw the offer, he took it. And he got $1 million for it, but he owned half, so $500,000. But that time, it was good enough. So he came over to the office, and he says to me, guess what I did? And jokingly, I said, you sold the place. And he kept looking at me, kept looking, didn't say nothing yet. Did somebody tell you that? I said, no. I was just joking. Well, it's no joke anymore. I sold it. And guess how much I got? I said, I couldn't guess. I kept my mouth shut after that because I figured he's going to hate me for it. So he says, guess. No, I says, I'd like you to have the pleasure of telling me how much did you get? $500,000. Like a whole million, but half was mine. And he says, what do you think? I said, you did great. You're 63 years old. It's a good time to retire. Perfect. I don't like the way you say it. What better way can I say it? No, he says, you're not happy, are you? I said, will you leave me alone? You came here to visit. You gave me the good news. I told you what a wonderful thing you did. Now let's leave it alone. No, I'm not leaving until you tell me. And I got so ticked off. I said, I'll tell you. I says, let me ask you a simple question. I won't answer you. I'll just ask you a question. Then you'll answer yourself. Tuato ise is 50%, isn't it? Yes, it is, he says. Now, would their 50% pay your 50%? Because there was 2 partners owning 25 each. He owned 50. Well, if I had a knife and I stabbed him, I couldn't have hurt him anymore. And guess what? I said to myself, I'm out of the will. Guess what? When he passed away, I was out of the will.
Yeah. So you mentioned about the selling of the hotel. What year was that your father sold his share?
62 or 63.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and Alex, you mentioned that as you were growing up, you were very busy going to school and helping your father with the restaurant. Tell us what happened as you got older. What did you do? You finished school? You mentioned you finished grade 12?
Yes, I finished grade 12, and then...
Still helping your father with the restaurant?
Yeah, but this time I was the manager of the motel.
Okay.
So now I was making a decent pay. Now, the partners, decent pay, making a living, that's all. So one day he's taking me to the bank, because he's come with me to the bank. On the way to the bank, he says, you know, you have to quit school. You have to come to work. And you have to pay your rent. I says, I'm getting $40 a week. I says, well, how much rent you want? I'll pay you the rent. How are you going to live? I says, my brother will feed me, and I'll pay him back. And I says, for spending money, I've got tips I make. I shook him up. So he left me alone.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because the reason I talked back at him that way, because I knew he needed me badly. With me, he had the strength to sit, and he was the boss. The other two partners, if he told them, pick up that gum, they'd both run to pick it up.
Okay. And tell us about this picture and how it came about that you were photographed so nicely.
Okay, when we had the West Point,
The hotel?
yeah, across the road from us was called Audio Studios. They used to make movies there. Have you heard The Last of the Mohicans?
Yes.
It was made there. So they invited me over. They said, we'll dress you up and we'll put you in one of the movies. I said, that would be awesome. They started to like me a lot. I used to look after them like special guests when they used to come and dress. One of the directors there, would you believe he could throw his voice and you'd hear it underneath the desk where Virginia's sitting, and he'd be barking there. And the dog could be over here. He had that much of a talent.
And so you mentioned about your career. You were a manager at the hotel.
Yeah.
And when was that? Like right after you finished school? Give us a description of when that was.
Because the fact was, I think it was 57. 57. He needed me to hold back the partners. So he says, I'm going to ask a big favor of you. I want you to quit school and take over the motel. He had hired somebody. He was not very happy. And I says, what are you going to do with, I forget what his name was. He says, I fired him. I says, why would you fire him before you hire somebody? Oh, he says, I was counting on you. So I got stuck.
So you were working for him for a while?
For a long time.
Which, yes?
I would say about 7, 8 years later.
7, 8 years. Now, I know you were very busy with your father and helping him with the hotel. Did you and your father belong to any churches or organizations during this time?
No.
No, you were busy with work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but once in a while we'd go to Bond Street, the Greek church.
Okay. And Alex, then what happened
How's that for memory, by the way? Did you catch it?
Yeah, very good memory.
You're talking 40, 50 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, no, more than that. 60 years ago.
Right. And then how did your life progress in terms of your career?
I became a real estate broker.
And when was that?
It was 63, I think it was.
So you left the hotel and then
He sold it.
he sold it. That's
Yeah.
when he sold it, right?
Yeah.
And what made you get into real estate?
Well, I felt like I had the gift of gab because I had people compliment me. He says, you have such a nice way about you. One guy said to me, he used to come in every week with his boss. He was the employee. And he'd get a cheap room near the office. Remember the first one? And then his boss would say, get the lakefront one. So Bill used to come in the office and chat with me all the time. He says, why didn't you go with your gift of gab? He says, he used the exact words. He says, you have a very nice way about you. Why don't you go into real estate? You'll make a fortune. And I did. I sold one property. I made $450,000.
Oh,
So that was the start of my wealth. Thank you.
And tell us about the picture that we have here.
When I was made manager by Man and Martel, they also put me in the Greek paper.
because you were manager of a very big real estate
And
agency.
it was good for the company because the Greeks would say, "Oh, Manon Martel has a Greek manager."
They didn't know that you were Macedonian, right?
No, no. Well, that's why it's in Greek. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
So then, Alex, as you became involved more and more in your real estate, you were at that time. Were you single or were you married? How was your personal life going?
No, I was married. We were living with my brother and his wife and a couple of children.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Tell us when you met your wife, her name, and how you got together.
Well, her name is Olga. Her last name is Nanos, Nanos. It's a, believe it or not, for some reason, there's a big newsman that comes on TV. His name is Nanos, coincidentally.
Now, is she also from your village, from Sveta Petka?
No, she's from Kotori.
Kotori. And how did you meet her?
In those days, it used to be a habit that if there was a wedding, you could go to the wedding after supper. Okay? So to do something on Sundays. So I'll go on University Avenue, and I go in the wedding there. By this time they're dancing. So I see her, and light went on. So I went and started dancing behind her, because I'm not a very good dancer, so she can't tell from behind, okay? And so I see her dancing with her father after she danced with me. And he looked young enough, or I was simple-minded enough to think it might be a boyfriend. So next time I went afterwards, I danced again beside her. And I asked her, "Who was the gentleman you were dancing with?" And she says, "My father."
Now, is your wife Macedonian?
Yeah.
So by this time, were you talking to her in English or Macedonian?
Both.
Both.
Both, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I was shocked. So now, picture this.
Shocked but happy, right?
Yeah.
That it was a father, not a boyfriend.
Yeah. Picture this. We're on University Avenue, and she and her father and her mother are leaving. And I'm trying to think fast, and for me, it wasn't that easy. So I said, "What do I do now?" I see them, they're walking out of the door. I says, "I know what. I'm going to go get the car, and I'm going to follow them and offer them a ride." I pick up a car, I come on University Avenue, and the Bloor streetcar just arrives. I take a shot at it. The streetcar driver had to hit the brakes, and he opens the door, and these are ready to go in. And by this time I parked there, and the streetcar driver says, "Are you crazy?" I says, "No, I think I'm in love.
Oh,
Leave
what
me
a
alone."
romantic story, Alex.
Yeah. So her father says, "Come on." I says to them, "Ako mi wate da vi dam ride."
I'd like to give you a
And
drive.
if you would like, I'd love to give you a ride home. And the mother says, "Come on, Olga, let's go." Her father says, "Shabbash, Marie, what are you doing? The man is nice enough to offer us a ride. Let's go." "No, you do what I tell you." And he scared her. They came in, got in the car.
Maybe he liked you right from the beginning.
Well, I think he liked the free ride. I swear to you. He was that cheap, So I take him home. on Greenwood Avenue. I park across the road from their house, and he says to me, Birum, da se napiš, da te napije najti za što ne doje se. Ne, spolajte nogu, but ti to pitam nešto, surely. I'm going to ask you something. What's that? You know anybody from Sveta Petka? I says to him. He says, yes, Nikola Popov. He comes to my barber shop. He was a barber. We're very good friends, he says. Oh, okay, spolajte nogu. За що опитваш? Чи научиш, моля? I go home, I swear to God, on the phone. Nick. Yes? Alec. Show me the prices. No, he was a very good friend. He liked me a lot. I helped him with something, I forget what. And he says, I says to him, do you know Jimmy Nanos? Oh yeah, he's my barber. And he's actually very close to me. If I had known that, I'd have him bring him over to me. I said, listen, I want you to do something more. What's that mean? I want you to be my strojnik.
So you wanted him to be like the matchmaker?
Matchmaker.
Okay.
He says, you're kidding. You don't even know her. I says, I don't care. I'm in love, and I think she is too, and that's all there's to it. Okay, really, Timofona, hey, Chinamesta, and I'll make sure her Olga's uncle's gonna be there. Her uncle was a beautiful man.
Nice person, huh?
Yeah, but unfortunately, he bought a house that had formaldehyde. And you might remember, in those days, people died from the formaldehyde in their house. And the poor guy committed suicide. You know. And they wouldn't take him to church because he committed suicide. And I knew Father John, and I says to my father-in-law, tell him to wait for me. And I go to Father John, and I says, Father John, I'd like to give the church a donation. He said, you've donated before, but I says, I'd like to give a little more. And I pull out a $100 bill. I says, for the church. You're asking for a favor. Yes and no. I would give it to you, but it happens, I do want a favor. And what's that? He says. I says, the church won't take my uncle who committed a suicide as my mother-in-law's brother. He says, this goes to the church, you bring your uncle. And we did it. And his sister was so happy, my mother-in-law. She says, you got that kind of pull? I never told her about the $100.
And now, so going back to after you met with the help of your friends and uncles, with your strojnik. Yes, you met with the matchmaker. You met your
my wife to be.
Your wife to be, and then when did you actually get married?
We got married a year later on Mother's Day, May the 15th. At that time it was.
So you had a year of courtship.
Yeah.
So tell us about.
Oh, it was just great. She never seen life like it, because I was working and making some money, right? And I used to take her to different restaurants and shows, and she says, "What are you doing?" I says, "I like you very much." And I said, I'd like to go a little further and send you Father a strojnik, I said. And in the meantime, until that happens, if it happens, I said, I'd like to show you a good time. And, I took her to some restaurants. I took her to some shows, the Capitol, and, some big shows and so on.
Did you go to any dances?
No.
No?
No, I didn't want to try too soon. And it turned out this training did a good job. He says, Stushibam Sakala Tamita, and her uncle's going to be there, and he'll fall in love with him. He's a very nice person, and he's going to be of help to you. And you won't believe this. We're talking away, and my mother-in-law's name is Lena. It was his sister, right? And her father is Jimmy. And I says, Mr. Nanos, would you mind if I take Olga for a cup of coffee, just so we get to know each other? And no, Mr. Taka, just as fast as that. Her uncle moved. Jimmy, hello, kitchen.
Come to the kitchen, he wants to talk to him, huh?
Yeah. Moved Ulo Silly show. Shogoshi. I don't know him. He came with a Strойnik, okay? You know Kola, don't you? Nick? Yeah. Well, then he's going to go. There was a restaurant quite close by on Bloor Street there, and nice Sundays banana splits. Mm-hmm. Well, that took her for a real surprise. She thought this guy's a sport, and that was it.
Yes.
And we got married.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. What was the year you mentioned?
57, I think it was.
1957.
Don't push me like that.
Okay. And where did you live first when you got married?
With my brother and my sister-in-law.
Whereabouts is that in the city?
Mimico.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mimico is south of South Etobicoke.
And what were you working at this time?
Oh, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, when I was working with them, I used to work at the restaurant.
So you were at the restaurant?
We still had the restaurant. Mm-hmm. Then I became manager.
Right.
Because the guy, my father, didn't like the manager, and he says, you have to quit school and manage the motel.
Right, and then, right, yes, we did get that earlier, yeah. That's good. And then, did you have, did children come along?
Oh yeah, our firstborn was a boy, and
his name?
Chris, mm-hmm. And the second one was Angelina, and the third one was Stefan. Angelina's a lawyer. The one that will shock you is Stefan. Stefan is senior vice president of Takori. Takori is known as the jewelers to the stars in Hollywood. And he moved to Los Angeles, and I'm delighted to say he got married once, and she was a little loose girl. So they got rid of her and got married again as a child, and I'm delighted that he has a family, and that's it.
Great, and your other two children live here in Toronto?
Yes, Chris lives in Newmarket, and Angelina lives with her husband here in Toronto, and Stefan is in, like I said, is in Hollywood.
Right. So
yeah.
you have grandchildren, you mentioned in...
Yeah, yes. Stefan just had she's, we rarely talk. They have some kind of problem, and the other two won't let him talk to me. So he sneaks a call once in a while. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Then, Alex, you got involved in the Macedonian community, and we know you well from all of your voluntary work and your golf
tournament
involvement.
And I was involved. I made that.
Yes, tell us about this booklet. It's the Canadian Aegean Paraskevi. That's Sveta Petka in Macedonian.
Selo to llama Grkomani.
Yes, so
Okay.
Grkomani, tell us.
That means they're Macedonian, but they're pro-Greek. So if you just some Sveta Petka the Klaish, you're going to have a lot of trouble. So I outsmarted them, so they'd cooperate with me, and I called it the Yeparaskevi Sveta Petka.
Yes.
And guess what? I called every family name one guy. I says, I want you to get every name of your family and every address and phone number. That's how I made the book.
So tell us about the book. The idea. It was your idea to make it.
Yes, it was to help the the Siltsky, actually, the villagers. They would enjoy it so much because we used to meet a lot. I used to make them make picnics. I would put up the picnics, and I used to put up dances. When somebody came from Australia, we would make a dance for him.
So this is your village association, and you were very involved. Were you president?
I was president, and then after a while I quit so that we give chances to other members of Sveta Petka to become presidents.
And your society started in '97 or earlier?
Oh no, the society started back in, I think it says on there.
But like at the beginning of the 30s
a long
or
time
40s?
ago. It was a long time ago.
Right.
Yeah.
But your involvement was in the 90s?
My involvement was from the 60s on.
You were involved with your village association?
Oh yeah.
Okay. What kind of activities did you plan with your association?
Okay. You know Bronte Park?
Yes.
Whereabouts
is it?
It's in just past, just short of Hamilton.
Okay.
It's right on the lake, and I used to take them 1 year. I'll tell you what, we took 10 buses to take all Seta Pevci to the picnic.
So most of you had there are lots of people here from Sveta Petka.
Oh God, yeah. And other villages used to come because we used to put on a heck of a thing.
And you had music?
Oh God, we'd bring in bands from Hamilton and Toronto and everything. And the cutest one, the best one ever. I says, we're going to have a race. And one guy says, what age? I says, age 1 or, age 5 or less. And the žena mi veli, da nisi pijan, veli. You mean a 1-year-old's going to run with a 5-year-old? Yeah, veli. Okay, good luck to you. You're going to kill yourself laughing. I had my wife prepare. We counted how many kids we had. She made that many presents. And една жена вели, мъжът ти троа уловия. Оти вели да каква е целита ден да трча. Я, че видиме кои уловили. Нека свършат трчението. Ако свършая, взел съм най-големия, му давам него. И после другите му грее жал.
So all the kids raced at the same time, and first you gave the gift to the one who won, and then?
And then I gave every one of them.
Because they were all watching and you wanted to make sure everybody was happy.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
As simple as that.
Yeah, and your wife made all the effort to make presents for everyone. How nice.
Yeah. And one guy still swears at me.
Why?
I made a raffle. I had a big box, about this big, and you couldn't tell what was in it. I said, listen, it's for the home. I said, bid whatever you want.
This is for the Canadian Macedonian place?
Yeah. I said $1, $5, whatever you want. They started bidding, and they got ticked off with each other. I said, if he's going to offer $1, I'll offer $2. The other one said $3. we picked up $20 for the watermelon.
That is funny, Alex. You're known for your jokes, and some of your jokes are very unique and very real, right?
Oh, the best joke that I know, Macedonian, na stara žena.
An old lady?
Yeah, an old lady picks up something, and she forgot to stop at the cash register and pay. And the guy stopped her at the door, and he says, "Excuse me, madam. Shosaka Cinco?"
What do you want?
Yeah, but she's speaking Macedonian, he's speaking in English.
Okay.
Okay, she doesn't speak Macedonian. She says, "Did you pay for that thing you got?" "I'm sorry. Baba veliko ne je podnapijena. If Baba hasn't had a drink, she doesn't sing."
Oh.
Ne pay Baba.
Okay.
Was that fantastic or what?
That's a funny one, yeah. And then you, as well as being involved in your village association, you were also very involved, Alex, in the Canadian Macedonian plays. Can you tell us about your involvement?
Oh yeah.
When did you become involved, and how did that come about?
Oh, I just wanted to help out, that's all. It was of no particular, like say I want to gain something, like because I'm helping out. That was just for my own pleasure. And they asked me once, he says, "How come you do all this volunteer work?" I says, "It's a simple answer." And the lady says to me, and she passed away now, Vasa Evans. She says, "You're very, very willing to volunteer. Why do you do it?" I said, "It's very simple." She says, "Well, what's the answer?" I says, "For the pleasure of it." She couldn't get over it. She says, "You're kidding." I says, "No. I take so much pleasure if I can do something for nothing. Not for $1, not for $1,000, for nothing." And that was it.
Mm-hmm. And that was a lot of volunteering, because you were on the board at Canadian Macedonian Place, right, from 1979.
Yeah.
And then you were also a president of
Yes.
Canadian Macedonian Place.
Yeah, of course.
From 84 to 85, and director from 85 to 2002. So I know it's a long span of time. And then the director from 2002, is that right?
Yeah, he was president 1 year.
You were president 1 year, right, from 84 to 85, and then continued your involvement as director for a long time.
Yeah.
So you did it for the pleasure of it, because you wanted to do something for your community, for your Macedonian friends and people. So tell us, how did you become involved? What happened? How did you start? Was it for fundraising or?
Oh yeah, well that was the intention. Mm-hmm. If I was going to be president, I was going to try and find a way to make money for the old age home.
Is this before it was built?
Oh yeah, before it was built, by the way, we had the member of parliament, the municipal member, he was the alderman there, he attended the opening, and we had Mulrooney there. Virginia, you remember Mulrooney?
Yes, Mulrooney was there afterwards, after it opened. Yes,
yeah.
after
he came by.
Yes.
So we did well, yeah.
And what kind of fundraising were you involved in, Alex?
For the home.
Yes.
Well, the biggest one was, of course, when I talked Van Petrov into joining me, because I was doing a tournament at my golf course, and whatever money we made, we gave it to the home.
Yes, tell us about how you bought your golf course and about your golfing history.
Okay, the golf course, it was owned by the Željevo Brotherhood. Okay.
So So that's
And-
a big Macedonian organization. At
Oh,
that
God,
time.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
They were the first ones to organize in Toronto. And they even had the Jelevo Hall. They used to have dances and everything else. So I heard that they owned the golf course. So I had a partner from Jelevo in the real estate business. He's
And-
passed away now, God bless him.
And his name?
Chris Pappas, if you remember, beautiful person. Oh, I says, Chris, I'm going to buy a golf course. Where do you get these ideas? I says, listen, I looked it over, and the Brotherhood owns it, and I says, I think we can get it for what they bought it. He says, you know what they paid for it? No, but I'm waiting for you to tell me. He says, they paid $260,000. How the hell can you buy a golf course for $260,000? Very simple. You're on the Jelevo board, aren't you? Yeah. Ask them if they'd like to sell. And they said, we've had enough. We'll sell it. He says, I've got somebody who's willing to pay you what you paid. And Bob Pappas, his brother, says, if you got some sucker who wants to buy it, we want cash. No, they were going to take a mortgage. This you'll love. They're going to take a mortgage, and they said, don't worry about it. He can handle the golf course. His father is very rich. Well, my father decides to die on me the night that they were going to approve the mortgage. Thank God, not thank God for my father's passing. I bless him, he was a lovely person. He had a little selfishness, but very intelligent, very aggressive, to build a West Point. You know what I eventually sold the West Point for? $15 million. My commission, that's the $450,000 commission that I got for,
So you bought the golf course just in time, you were saying, for the mortgage and everything?
They wouldn't give me the mortgage because they said, he's got plenty of money now. His father passed away. Well, when they found out that he didn't leave me, he left me out of his will, Chris says, listen, we got to help him out. And he says, well, sorry, but we don't want to get involved. I went to every bank in Barrie, and I finally found one. And they said, how much are you putting down? And I said, so much. And he says, how much are you paying for it? So much. He says, you're a smart buyer. That's a lot of land. Why are they giving it to you so cheap? I says, because they don't know how to fix it. He says, what do you think you're going to do to make it busy? Because the only thing they're getting is the seniors from Sandy Cove Acres, which was north of there. I says, I looked it over before I committed to buying it. I says, it's near the lake, right? Yeah. I says, it's mostly underwater. I says, it doesn't dry up till end of April, sometimes June. And by September, it's underwater again. So how are you going to fix it? And I said to my partner to be, who was scared to no end, you're crazy. But he says, I trust you so much. I says, we're going to put a manager and some young guy, and I and you, and we're going to put 10,000 feet. I didn't know I was going to run 10,000 feet, but 10,000 feet, 6-inch pipe, and we're going to run the whole course to the pond. Now we'll have lots of water to use for watering the course. The course is going to improve, business is going to improve, and you'll wanna buy me out. But I says, don't try it, because you're going to hurt yourself. Jokingly, you know. Would you believe there was a Polish guy there that was a member? They got close together. It was Peter Duku. He still lives in Bradford. He says, give him an offer. I want to buy him out. I love this course. What he's done, I put a fence in the front. People can't go in without paying. Everything. And Duku says, we want to buy you out. You have 5%, don't you? He says, yeah. How much you want? He says, no, we want to buy you out. I says, if you had spoken to me in a nice way, would you consider selling or make us 50% partners or something? We might have done something. You didn't do that. We'll see your lawyer and see the papers I made, the partnership papers. The lawyer says he's got some tough agreement that you got you signed, but he says any agreement can be broken. You know what a lawyer's going to say. And I says, Fred Flores. I says, Chris, before you hurt yourself badly, go to Fred Flores, ask him to read my papers. I'll pay for it. And I says, ask him if those papers can be broken. Fred Flores says, save your money, and I'm not charging you anything because I care for you, but I'm glad you came to me. I'm going to save you some problem. And I bought him out. And that's how it happened.
Right, so this is your golfing experience. When did you start, you golf yourself, and how did that interest develop?
I started about a year earlier.
Golfing?
Yeah, I fell in love with it.
Yes?
Yeah, I fell in love with golf, and I made up my mind I'm going to buy a golf course. I almost bought one here in Toronto. Yeah.
And how many, so you were golfing all this time? How long did you have your golf course?
Exactly 10 years. Right on the button.
Right.
You know why I know that? I couldn't tell you the dates. My kids were bothering me. Virginia, every day they're in the back seat and they're saying, Dad, why don't you sell the damn thing? You're losing money. So what are you holding on to it? I says, because of Mark Twain. And Chris, the older one, said, who the hell's Mark Twain? I says, look it up in the internet. No, tell us, he says. I said, no, look it up. And you know what Mark Twain said? His favorite saying was, during the Depression, they asked him, you're a very intelligent man. What should somebody buy now as a good investment? He says, I'll tell you something that's a good investment now and forever. They all looked at him and he says, what's that? He says, land. Why do you believe so much in land? He says, I'll tell you and I'll guarantee you, if you live to 100, you won't forget it. You know what he told them? He says, because they don't make any more of it. The more the population grows, the more expensive the land is. Can you find me a better investment? And land is the only thing they don't charge you capital gains on in this country.
Okay.
Is that wild or what?
That is, yes.
Yeah.
And then how did your involvement with Canadian Macedonian Place develop? Was that with your interest in golf?
Yes. When they were, Virginia will remember, they were asking for help. I think I gave $10,000, wasn't it?
So you were one
Yeah.
of the big donors, yes?
Yeah, and Alec Evans gave $10,000. And then I promised him for 10 years that I would give $1,000 a year, and I'll do a golf tournament for the home to make it popular, because Virginia will tell you it took a long time to fill this place up. Remember, it wasn't a Macedonian thing. You're going to put your grandparents in an old age home? It's not going to happen.
It used to be a taboo, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
It was not.
So I made it very popular.
So tell us how you started the golf tournament, the first Macedonian golf tournament.
Well, it was for the purpose of making money for the home. As a matter of fact, they asked for donations, and I says, I just bought a golf course, so I'm short of cash. I can't give you cash, but I can give you $10,000 a year, every year for the next 10 years. And they said, that's great. And that's how I did it.
And the golf tournament also had other Macedonians involved. Tell us about Van Petrov, because he was also quite involved with it. How did
but
that
the
happen?
difference was Van Petrov was doing it for himself.
And was that before?
Yeah.
So this was so there was a golf tournament going on before the home was built.
Yeah, but he wasn't, no, in the home, but he came into the home time, but he wouldn't give any money to the home.
Right, so tell us how you got that group involved.
The way I got Van involved was when he heard that I was giving money to the home, I said, Van, when you gonna let a few bucks out to the home, eh? You got lots of money, you're a millionaire. I said, why don't you give him $1,000 a year or something? And I think he started out with $1,000 a year. Yeah.
And then, so that was the Macedonian Open Golf Tournament that developed thereafter.
Yeah.
And tell us about some of your events and how interesting and how many people came.
I'll tell you how popular it became. We used to have so many people, because don't forget it was a small golf course, okay?
Where was it held?
It was just south of Barrie. It's called Stroud. It's near the lake. Eh? I had a small clubhouse, which I modernized, put a beautiful kitchen in, and a walk-in freezer, and
so this was your golf course?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I made the clubhouse with carpeting, and the members started being proud, and they used to call it Innisfil Beach Golf Course. And I says, how many people know Innisfil Beach? We had a membership meeting. And I want to change the name, I want to get your opinion. He says, one of them was very close to me, and he says, whatever you do, I'll help you out. And I says, I want to change the name. He says, and so he's the one says to me, what do you want to change it to? I says, recognition. You're going to call it recognition? He said. Everybody starts laughing. I says, look, I've done a lot of marketing in my life, eh? And I know sales. I said, when they recognize something, it will sell. Okay, McDonald's is your best example. Well, where is Innisfil Beach Road to John, who lives on Danforth Road? He wouldn't know where it is. But if you ask him where Lake Simcoe is, he could probably almost tell you how to get there. Or they'll look it up. Easy to remember and everything. When I changed it, the members were so happy because it gave them so much pride and gave them a good name.
So the name was?
Lake Simcoe Golf Club.
Okay. And how did the Macedonian Open Golf tournament come about?
Well, I started it.
Right. You
Yeah.
had the idea and you asked
Yeah.
Van Petrov to join you?
No, he was putting on his on it as well, but he was putting it for himself.
Okay. But
Okay,
eventually
so-
you got together, right?
No, he got sick. When he got sick, he gave it up. So then I was the only one left, and it became busier and busier, that's all.
And now where is the Macedonian Open Golf tournament held?
You won't believe it, it's the Cardinal. The Cardinal Golf Course is a heck of a golf course.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a nice picture of you and the late Mr. Bitov.
Yeah.
Bog da go prosti. Can you tell us what that involved?
They brought in the Lerin Aegean, and they wanted to honor John Bitov and myself. And that's the rascal that was responsible for that. That's Stan Thomas. He used to be president of Shoppers Drug Mart.
Yes, tell us about some of the committee members of the Macedonian Open Golf tournament.
Stan Thomas. There was so many, I couldn't remember.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're still involved in organizing it?
Yeah, the only thing now, we do it at the Cardinal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And let's talk a little bit about with the your involvement and what motivated you to get involved in the Macedonian community.
In our silo,
In your village?
we have two things. Macedonians,
To be a Macedonian, yes.
you know what the other one is?
What is the other one?
Grecoman.
These are people who say that they're Greek, but they're Macedonian.
Correct. Yeah, they're pro-Greek.
They're pro-Greek.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they even say the word, I'm Greek.
So
I have a cousin of mine. You say to him, first cousin.
Hello.
yes, you have a cousin,
Yeah.
first cousin, who is a Gerkoman.
He's such a Grecoman that if you tell him he's Macedonian, he'll fight you.
Now, Alex, you're you have very strong Macedonian identity and have done so much for the Macedonian community. Why do you think some of the people are different, have a sympathy towards the Greek language?
Oh, it's a very simple answer, by the way.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Tell
You
us.
won't believe it. If you want to get ahead as a Macedonian, you better make yourself a Greek in Greece.
This is if you live in Sveta Petka.
Yeah. Or any Macedonian village and you're speaking Macedonian.
So you have, in order to get ahead in life, the Greek government still doesn't give any opportunities to the Macedonians.
No,
Who
that's
are-
right. That's right, yeah.
Proud
There's still,
Macedonians.
there's still so many Grekomani. Okay, there was a famous man. He was Prime Minister of Greece. Okay, he was Macedonian, but nobody knew about it.
Yeah.
I looked him up in the Google.
Right.
I call it googly. Yeah, that's my favorite thing in life. Okay,
You
if I have
enjoy
nothing to do.
being on the-
Yeah, I have a laptop.
Yeah.
Just use him, and I look up how's this, how's that, what's
Historical
happening.
interests.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful things. Yesterday I was looking up Putin.
Yes.
Yeah, the president of Russia, to
Right.
see if he's still president. He's not only president, but he's crazy.
And talking about your other involvements, Alex, I know that you have many beautiful letters from our politicians, our provincial politicians, about a very special bill that you and your wife helped to bring about and change. This is Bill 22, and you changed it especially. Tell us about what this bill is about.
It's visiting rights, to gain visiting rights for grandparents to their grandchildren.
So in the previous bill, there was no such
such a thing.
no such clause.
My
Yes.
son-in-law, I shouldn't be saying it, my son-in-law 11 years ago phones me and says, this is Robin. That's his name, he's English. I want to tell you, from here on in, until I tell you otherwise, you won't be seeing your grandchildren. And we babysat and brought up the grandchildren until the last one became of school age. And I swear to you, the camera is my witness. I says to my wife, we got problems. She says, I know what you're going to say. I says, what do you think I'm going to say? She says, Matthew, with 2 T's. That was his favorite thing. You know that my name isn't just Matthew. It's with 2 T's. Yeah. Anyways, he became of school age. And she says, I know what you're going to say. It's Matthew, isn't it? I said, yep. She says, they needed us to babysit him. And now they don't. You watch what's going to happen. I think it was about a week later. This is Robin. No hello. No nothing, Mr. Alexander, or nothing. Before that, Dad, because I helped him with everything. Okay? He said, I just want to let you know you won't be seeing your grandchildren until I tell you otherwise. And that's 11 years ago. Okay?
Now, did they divorce with your daughter, or he just decided that you're not going to see them?
He decided, is that selfish? Because to me, it's not the pain he's causing me that's hurting me. It's the pain that he's causing the grandchildren.
So there was a bill.
They loved us. And one of them is a girl, 2 boys. And the girl, Alexandra, she was named after me, so you'll know how close we were. Alexandra's got ADHD. She's not well. And she loved her grandmother. Just literally loved her. And they won't let her see her.
So what did you and your wife decide to do then? You decided to...
We took them to court.
Yes?
And you know what the judge said? I wish I had it in my power. But unfortunately, the way the law is made, I cannot give you visiting rights. But he apologized for not being able to give us the visiting rights.
So those were the laws previous. And then you and your wife did a lot of contacting with politicians, and you managed to change the law.
Never changed it.
But Law 22 gives the grandparents rights, or no?
No. They say that Ontario has the best grandparents law, and that's a total lie. Just a total lie, political answer.
So the bill that was brought about still doesn't give the...
No, the guy quit. He gave up being a member of parliament, so he didn't have to deal with it. So he died.
So the bill was never...
It was read
Yes.
twice. 3rd reading, it becomes law.
And it didn't do the 3rd reading?
No, because he had to reintroduce it.
And he didn't?
No.
Okay. So basically you made a good effort to
Oh.
change the law.
Oh, God. Did
Yes.
I bring one of those things that my wife did? There it is.
Yes.
Okay. Picture that. She made 108 of these. That's how many members of parliament there are. And she delivered it in person. We were introduced to parliament and we made 4 deliveries. 4 years in a row.
To each parliament member.
To each member of parliament, yeah.
Okay. So, but you
And
put up a good
because
fight.
of that effort, the Speaker of the House said, we want you to come, you and your wife, we want to introduce you to Parliament, to the provincial Parliament. And they had us in a special place for special visitors. It was just great. It was some effort.
You made a big effort, which is
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
Yes. And you're an example of a very successful Macedonian immigrant, a boy who came from Sveta Petka at the age of 12.
I'm not that successful. I'm still an immigrant.
Yeah, but you built a really meaningful life here in Canada, right? What advice do you have for the younger generations of Macedonians who, you know, to be a successful member of our society here? What advice do you have for the youngsters?
Love Canada. That's the answer. It's the best country in the world, and it'll give you more opportunities than any other country in the world.
And do you have any advice for the young Macedonian parents of how they can share and encourage their Macedonian heritage with their children?
Oh, definitely. The best way is with the church. Yeah.
Tell us about your involvement with the church.
I'm not really involved with the church, except that I attend quite a bit.
This is what church do you attend?
The one on Bond Street.
Yes.
Okay, and the Sveta. Okay, so Sveta, you know the front doors?
This is the one in Pickering, yes?
I paid for the doors.
Okay, so
Okay.
you contributed.
Yeah, and I did some other things for it, yeah. We did an icona for John Biroff, okay? Because he was so active as well with us. And we said the one that deserves it the most is John Biroff. And we each paid $1,000.
And this is in Sveta Nedela now?
Yeah.
Okay. So you knew Mr. Bitov as a
Oh, we were close, good friends.
good friend?
Yeah. Good friends means that when you see each other, you either hug or shake hands with a good shake.
Right.
Because my grandfather, Virginia, on my mother's side, De Lefto, he was famous even here. He went in a coma, and he made the Greek papers, and he made the Greek papers in Canada. And they washed him and dressed him for burial. And at night, that's, by the way, that's a custom. At night, somebody has to guard him, okay? Attend to him. And my poor aunt, never stole, diameter right here. She nearly died. She almost fainted. She got him there right here, and it's polite, you know.
So he was
in the coma.
he was in a coma. He wasn't dead.
He wasn't dead, no. And they dressed him to bury him.
Oh,
And oh, by the way, the ladies have to wash him. Yeah,
so they did the whole thing.
yeah,
Oh, that's a real story.
yeah. And when I was there, I bought him an expensive suit in Lerin. And he says to his nevesto, ko ti me zakopam, Сакам да му даиш на најсиромата човек во света Петка.
So, yeah,
So when he died, they gave it to the poorest man.
his suit, right?
Yeah.
When did Ifto come to Canada?
Who?
Your grandfather. His grandfather.
Your grandfather. Your grandfather.
Oh no, he wasn't in Canada, he was in America.
Oh, where was he in the States?
Texas,
Really?
yeah. He did in the oil fields.
That's interesting.
Isn't it something?
This is your grandfather.
My maternal grandfather.
Your maternal
And
grandfather.
I never knew my paternal grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
He died before I was born.
Right.
And you should have seen what a lovely man he was. Oh,
Did
the
you?
whole village loved him. Yeah.
So he spent a lot of time in Texas?
Virginia, they wanted a joke. How about some good advice that my dad gave?
Yes, that would be a good way to end. Yes?
A guy from Pashovci.
That's a family in your village?
He was a heavy drinker.
Okay.
И му вели делевто, ти се моля ти ми даеш една дума, some advice. Шо ти е, брат Латман? Ова рајхјата многу ме џива. По поводи човеко, вели. Јас ќе ти кажа, вели. Шо дума ќе ти треба, јас ќе ти кажа, вели. Слушај вам. Stood to him, and they were in the Strezzello when he asked him that. He went home and he bought a bottle of whiskey and he put it on a bench. He cijeli se sobraja to see what the hell is going on. And he says, će ti kaže nešto, сесенко, cijelo život nema da zaboraviš. To je šišeto. Pulio do koliko sakaš. Jedan pol sat, jedan sat, jedan den, 10 dena, 100 dena,
Just watch
200
the bottle.
dena.
Yeah.
Pulio, veli, ako ne odjibniš ti, veli, ne te giba, veli.
Oh, if you don't touch it, it won't bother you. Wow, that is a very wise advice.
I used to use it with Vasco when we used to do the Macedonian program, and one guy said, God bless you. He says, I give up drinking. Can you imagine?
From your advice.
Yeah.
Wow.
He says, when you said it, the way you said it, he says, I couldn't believe it. Because when I said it, I said, I called myself stupid so many times. Eventually I realized I was stupid. Why am I drinking if it's no good for me? That's how I gave up. After 60 years of smoking, I gave up smoking.
This is you?
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
2 years I haven't smoked.
Oh, bravos.
Yeah.
Bravos. Good for you.
Yeah.
And to end on another advice, što sакаш да му кажеш на нашите македонци што те гледат на ова интервју? Што сакаш да му кажеш за advice од тебе?
Најголемиот адвајс на светот. Пулете си ја фамилијата. Ja. Пулете си ја фамилијата, оти тави е најголемата сила.
That's a very Macedonian advice.
Yeah.
Take care of your family.
Yeah. Take care of your family, they'll take care of you, they will be better off. And when a person dies, they die with a positive departure. I had a lovely family, I had a lovely life, it's time to go. Everybody goes, even the gentleman they put on the cross.
Mr. Alexander, we really appreciate you taking the time to come and share your story here at our Canadian Macedonian Historical Society, and we're very happy that we had this opportunity with you, and we are sure that many young people who watch the video will take your many interesting advice that you gave us.
I am delighted to be here, and if you ever need me, just call me, and we'll do another, or whatever you need.